Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today is the May reading wrap up. We're going to talk about all the books I read in May. Let's just hop on into it. May was a really good reading month. I have several 5-star reads. So good. The first book I read was an audiobook actually. It was called Meet Me on the Lake by Carly Fortune. I think Every Summer After was her big hit to begin with, and this is the second book. They're not related at all though. I rated it 3 stars. It's a decent romance. It's like a second chance romance, but I don't really like the initial trope in it. I felt like there really wasn't much chemistry, but I liked the summery feel of the book, but not much going for the relationship. So just 3 stars, just mid. Then I read The Lightning Thief. I actually read this on my Kindle. I got it through the Libby app. I wanted to see what the hype was about Percy Jackson. I understand why people like it. I felt like it really just wasn't for me. I don't really understand Greek mythology very well, and I'm sure if I read it, maybe I would understand it a little more. But it's not something that super interests me, and I did feel like it was below my reading level because it is. I mean, it's a middle grade book, I believe. It's just not really for me. However, I did rate it 3 stars because I can see how good the writing is and how this could lead to a really good series, and it has a great premise to it. Just not my favorite. Then we read the first 5-star of the month, Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is her newest release. This is a complex book with so much depth, so much sweetness, so much love. This is about a girl named Daphne, and her fiance cheats on her with his girl best friend. I mean, that's a red flag to begin with. And his girl best friend was also in a relationship with a guy named Miles, so now Miles has a spare bedroom. And Daphne thinks, well, I'm getting kicked out of this house because my fiance cheated on me, so Miles, I'm just gonna come live with you. They're both heartbroken over this breakup, and now they're roommates, and they're learning about each other, and it's just really funny. And Miles has a really interesting personality at first, and then you get to know him and love him more and more. Acts of service, if you're an acts of service gal like I am, so sweet. She's a librarian. I love the librarian representation. I feel like we don't get enough of it. And there's a summery feel to it. They go to the beach. It's a cute, quaint town. Emily Henry always has the best writing, like the most beautiful sentences. I always think, how does she combine these words into such gorgeous phrases? It's crazy. Then I read The Wishing Game. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I rated it 4.5 stars. The only reason it wasn't a 5 stars, that was a little slow in the beginning. This is about a girl named Lucy, and she's a teacher's aide right now, but she wants to adopt this little boy in the school, but she doesn't have enough money. There are a bunch of details that lead into this, but she gets involved in this competition by an author who wrote children's books. The winner of the competition gets that children's book, and she could make a lot of money from it. It's very endearing. It's so lovely to see how much she cares for this little boy and how much thought she's putting into the competition. And there are some riddles along the way that's kind of fun to follow along with. It kind of reminded me of the Inheritance games. A really sweet read for sure. Then I read The Worst Wingman Ever, which is part of the Improbable Meet Cute series that Amazon put out, a collection of little short stories from all these authors, and Abby Jimenez wrote one, and honestly, I ate it up. I rated it 4 stars. I feel like it couldn't be a 5 stars because it was 60 or 70 pages and I read it in one sitting. I got so invested in the characters. It's a little short romance, and how they meet is that he is tasked with putting a Valentine's Day card on his brother's girlfriend's car, I believe, and he puts it on the wrong car, and he puts it on our main female character's car, and so that's how they meet. It's just really funny, the back and forth between them. There's also so much depth to it. The female main character is taking care of her grandmother who is in hospice. She's a hospice nurse or home health nurse. I don't really understand how she could make such complex characters in just 60 pages, but it was wonderful. Another Abby Jimenez book I read this summer, not this summer, I mean, yeah, kind of this summer. Okay, Lydia, what? The next book I read was by Abby Jimenez too, and it is a 5-star read for me. This is just for the summer. This is her newest release. This is about a girl named Emma who's a traveling nurse. Our male main character is named Justin, and they both have this issue with them. It seems like the person that they date, they break up, and then their ex always finds their one true love after them. So they're just like the stepping stone for people in their relationship timeline. So they connect over this really funny curse, and they think, why don't we just date for a little bit, try to break this curse. It's really funny how it starts out, but then of course you catch feelings, but it's so sweet. The guy is so kind. Once again, acts of service. And I love how strong our female main character is, and I love her friendship. She travels with another traveling nurse, and they're literally living on this island, a tiny little cottage on an island. It feels so atmospheric. You feel very immersed in the story. There's just so much depth to it, and I think about this book probably once a day. The next book I read was another 5-star read, If the Shoe Fits. I was so shocked that I enjoyed this. It's basically The Bachelor, but in book form. Our female main character just got out of design school. She can't really find a good job, so she ends up going back home to babysit her siblings. But her mother, or her stepmother, is the director of The Bachelor equivalent. I don't even know what they call it. So she becomes a contestant on The Bachelor. And lo and behold, she's actually met The Bachelor before. So they have this history a little bit, and they connect, and he's very sweet. And it's really cool to see the fashion design fashion element too. I feel like I learned a lot about fashion just through this book. And yes, it is a play on Cinderella, so I liked seeing those little things, like she loves shoes and designing shoes. That felt like very Cinderella. And then the stepmom situation, the stepsisters, was taken in a different way, but it was still very sweet. It's hilarious. There were so many laugh out loud moments in this book. I read Firefly Lane next. I actually read this in a video, I think. I was so shocked how much I liked this. I've been putting this off for a really long time because it intimidated me. It's a story about friendship and I thought it would be boring, but it's not at all. You start out when they're children and you follow them throughout their whole life, and there's so much that goes on. It's so enchanting and so heartbreaking at the same time. Like, you want to know what's going on. You want to root for these characters, but you also don't want to read the next page because you know something bad's going to happen. But parts of it are very realistic too. Like, you can relate to these characters and see where they're coming from and why are they making these bad decisions and why are they acting like that towards their best friend. I just wanted to give them a hug multiple times throughout this book, and I'm not a hugger. I just knew that they needed a hug. I cried so much at the end of this, so beware. Please beware. You need tissues. Next, I read Happiness for Beginners by Catherine Center. I've loved every Catherine Center book I read. I rated this 4 stars. This is about a girl named Helen who was recently divorced and she wants to start her life over, so she decides to sign up for this wilderness hiking camp trip. That didn't make sense, but go on this hike for 3 weeks to see if she can survive and start a new life. Lo and behold, her brother's best friend is also going on the trip. She wanted to not know anyone. She just wanted to create this new life, but now she knows her brother's best friend is on the trip. He sparked a little romance, but they're not really leaning into it because she's like, you're too young for me. I already know you too much. I want to start over. It's very atmospheric too. I felt like it was perfect to read going into the summertime because you were outside with him in the wilderness, hiking along with him. I don't really like hiking, so I like to read about hiking to make me feel like I am actually on the trail with them. There are also some really funny moments in this, and even though it might sound repetitive, they're always hiking, they're always in the woods. It was very fast-paced and very easy to get through. Then I read The Roommate Situation by Katie Bailey on my Kindle. It's on Kindle Unlimited. It is such a funny romance. It's a rom-com, of course. It's like a brother's best friend trope mixed with the roommate trope because she comes back home to Atlanta and needs a place to stay. So she just shows up at her brother's house and her brother's not there, but he now has a roommate. They start hanging out. Of course, they're roommates now and they have to get to know each other. It's really funny. He's a really sweet dude. And I like how strong our female main character is. Even though she doesn't have a future, like a career in her mind, even though she doesn't have a clear path ahead of her, she knows who she is and what she wants to do. He ends up enlisting her help because he's involved with flipping houses. So she starts to help with the design element of the home and staging the home with her art. So that was really interesting to learn about, but also the romance is just really cute and really sweet. I rated it 3 stars because it was mid. It's not something I'm ever going to really think about again, but it was cute. Then I read a nonfiction book. I read The Rock, the Road, and the Rabbi. I actually borrowed this from my grandmother. This was a really interesting read, actually. This is taking you through the Holy Land while you're reading through the Bible and what happened in those different locations. I'm not really good with history. I'm not really good with geography, so I felt like maybe this wasn't the best book for me. Or maybe it was, because I could learn a little bit from it. It wasn't super engaging. I feel like it could have been written a little more like a fiction book, but that's just my fiction reader brain wanting a story rather than just to be told facts. But I still felt like it was a really cool read. And lastly, I finished Bad Blood. I finished the Natural series completely. I am very happy I finished this one. This one wasn't my favorite. The one before this was 5 stars for me. This was 4 stars for me. I really enjoyed it though. I liked how the whole situation was wrapped up. I can't really say what it was because this is the 4th book and I don't want to spoil anything. But there's overarching crime throughout the whole series and it was resolved in this. It was very intricate. Like, there's so much involved. So that's why it wasn't a 5 stars, because I felt like I wasn't following everything. But I loved the found family in this. The relationships in this were really sweet. And then there is a little novella at the end of this talking about the Naturals grown up, maybe 10 years into the future, and what they're doing now, and that was really interesting too. So 4 stars, I really enjoyed it. This was a fantastic reading month. The Bible verse for today is Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. This is a very comforting verse to me because he's my strength. I don't have to have strength inside of me solely from myself. My strength comes from the Lord, so if I'm ever scared of something or worried about something, I don't have to rely on the strength that I really don't have. I can rely on the Lord. He's with me every step of the way, and I can trust in him. I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you got some good book recommendations from it. Comment down below if you have any book recommendations for us. I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day and be a blessing to others today. Bye, guys.